It's the Schick Show. It's the Schick Show.
It's the Schick Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Schick Show. Hey, we got a hot mic moment here with Steve Hurd, a friend of mine and a friend of the Schick Show. He came on today, and, well, we had a good conversation going. I'm going to pick up right in the middle of that, so here we go. Second chances I've gotten,
Hey, man.
right? And third and
Hey,
fourth
man.
and fifth.
Yeah.
And, without them, I wouldn't be sitting here. It'd have been real easy. There were times it'd been real easy to write me off.
Oh, I know.
You know? Well, you didn't have to say it that way.
Not you. Not you. I'm talking about me, pal. I'm talking all about me.
That was really easy. Oh, I know. Yeah. I wanted to write you off twice. Yeah,
Yeah. Are we on?
yeah, we've been on for a while, man.
You always do this.
I know. Well, some of that I'll probably go through and make sure it's palatable for everybody. But I wrote some questions down.
Oh,
So
all right.
I'm coming at you today.
All right.
All right.
Let's do it then.
I think when we originally talked, I said you might get a chance to try and turn the tables here.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna give you that chance.
Not
I'm-
today, huh?
I'm going right at you, dude.
All right. Let's hear it.
So we're talking a little bit about your police officer days, and you were running the DARE program, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the DARE program, because I think it's really interesting. It's not happening anymore, as
Here
far as I know.
or period?
I don't know.
I know it's still going on.
Yeah, I don't think it is here though.
Yeah.
And the other schools I've been in, it's not happening either.
So when I left Hartford City and tried going over to Grant County, the DARE program actually was going through a change, and they updated their curriculum, because the curriculum that I was teaching from '06 to 2010, 2011, I don't even know. It's been that long ago.
Yeah.
Was the same curriculum that they wrote in LA. Los Angeles is where the DARE program started. And
Okay.
it was started by cops who were seeing the issues that they had with their youth and how they were getting wrapped up in gang violence and things like that.
Gotcha.
And they were just basically, they did their research and they found out, how can we keep these kids out of the gangs and off the streets and, having them be productive members of society. So they wrote this program, and, it had like 10 lessons in it. And most of the lessons were about, how to make healthy decisions, which is the same thing that your health teachers are teaching. And I remember Angie Brobst was
Yeah.
the head teacher of the 5th grade back then. And that crew that they had just made teaching DARE easy and fun.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's not very difficult when you have someone who's been teacher of the year at Blackford County, teacher of the year in Delaware at Muncie schools.
yeah, she's
like-
a rock star.
She is. She's incredible.
Yeah.
And just want to throw it out there. Her neighbor, Courtney Miles.
Yeah.
So their neighbors over at East Washington were,
Yeah.
and they work together here. Blackford. Courtney was the Muncie Community Schools Teacher of the Year
Really?
this past year.
I did
Yeah.
not know that.
I know she worked really hard to get that, and not that that's a goal. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like nobody sits out and says, "I'm going to be Teacher of the Year."
But
but-
it's nice to be
And
recognized.
it sure is, and to put that work and time and effort in. But anyway, so it's easy. It's real easy to put a program together when you know you got a rock star teacher
Right.
that you're coming into their room,
Yes.
where the
Well-
classroom management is spot on and the culture's right.
It was more nerve-wracking to walk in, because she was, I don't want to say she wasn't the nicest when I moved in. She was like, "Okay, yeah, you're the new guy. We're going to have you in. This is how we've normally done things. How do you want to do it?" And I was like nervous, I don't know. I'm a new DARE officer. How do you want me to do it? But we ended up becoming really good friends, especially, with everybody that was in there. And I still try to talk to her. I haven't talked to her in a couple of years, but I used to make cupcakes at the end
Yeah.
of each DARE lesson. And when she moved to Muncie, and when I stopped being a cop around here and stopped doing the DARE, I would still make her cupcakes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
So,
Nice.
but I haven't made them for a long time. Of course, I don't make them much anymore.
I was gonna say you were doing that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about some time consuming.
Yeah. Yeah, baking is so time consuming.
Yeah.
I mean, from
especially when
start to end.
you're doing 300 cupcakes and a wedding cake on top of it, and
Man.
trying to make everything look presentable so that
Right.
they have a nice wedding and everything.
And hopefully it tastes good.
Yeah, I don't make anything that doesn't taste good, man. Come on.
I can tell. Oh man, I finally get you back.
Yeah.
So you had the DARE program. How do you think it went? Do you think it made the impact they were hoping it would?
For me, it did.
Yeah.
I tried to make a personal connection with everyone in the classroom, just because, I don't know, that seems to be me. I like to have personal connections with people,
Sure.
which is why I found I don't like social media. Because you don't have that. I have all these friends that I had in high school that I don't remember. And I'll ask my wife, like, who is this? Do I know this person? Why are they requesting me on Facebook?
Yeah.
And I would accept them, and then I still don't know who half of them are, or why they were requesting me. I knew I went to school with them because we had all these friends in common, but so I never had that personal connection with them. But I tried to have that with every student who wanted to have it. I tried to have it with them, and I just last year I seen one of my DARE students in Ford's garage in Noblesville.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? It's still your student.
Yeah. And before that, we had a big snowstorm, and I was coming down Park Avenue. I had just bought my Jeep. I hadn't had it but maybe for a year. And here's this former student that is stuck off the side of the road. I just happened to have a tow strap, just happened to be driving by at the right time.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, Joey, I can pull you out, but I'm in shorts. So I'm not getting under your car and hooking this strap up. But if you can hook the strap up, I'll get your car out. But there's not much I could do about your flat tire.
Right.
But I can get you out of this ditch. And he was like, that's all I need. Once I get it out of the ditch, I can change the flat tire. And then I seen this same kid. We look at each other. I give him one of these numbers, and he stands up. And I mean, he's got to be like 22, 23 right now. He's an adult.
Yeah.
A welder or something like that in the skilled trades. And he comes over and he shakes my hand, introduces me to his entire family.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, that's the kind of connections that I tried to make throughout DARE. And I've seen several of them. We used to go to the football games, and even when they were in high school, they would still, hey, Sergeant Hurd, how you doing? I'm doing good. How are you? How's school going? What are you planning on doing after school? I'd always stop and talk. Always make time for them.
The relationship's such a key component. I mean, I think about the relationships I had as a kid and how they kept me from doing something really dumb.
Yep.
Something that would embarrass or, possibly endanger that friendship or relationship I had with someone.
Yeah.
And I applaud you for that. I appreciate it. And those kids, they need a person they can rely on that they know is going to be consistent, and they're going to see him later on. I saw a former student of mine last week. I was over at the caffeinery in Muncie. By the way, if you haven't been to the caffeinery in Muncie at Walnut and Charles, you need to check it out. Not just because one of the best baristas in Central Indiana works there, Addison.
I thought maybe they sponsored you.
No, they do not, but they kind of do, because they do employ both of my daughters. Jocelyn works in the roastery roasting the beans, and then Addison works as a barista at the caffeinery, the actual coffee bar. So, but anyway, I'm standing there. I got a coffee. I went over there, and I go over there to see my kid, right? But I love their coffee too.
Sure.
But I look over and I see someone, and I hate it. I hate that I don't have a name registry.
Yeah.
That just happens in my head. I'm not that teacher. There are teachers out there that they're great at it.
Yeah.
They'll never forget a name.
Oh,
Never.
I wish.
I don't know. I don't understand.
I don't know how they do
I
it.
wish I was that talented. I just don't. And I see this girl standing there, and well, she's a woman now. I mean, she's older. And I look over and I'm like,
I know you.
I know you. You know me. How do we know what you're thinking? She said, well, I was in your 8th grade class, Mr. Schick. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I realized it was Callista, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I knew her name, after that. And she had to remind me of her name, of course. But
Yeah.
then it just all sprung on me. And then I realized, oh my gosh, your sister is your brother. I remember, and it all started coming back and happening. And
I feel like I know who you're talking about.
right. And
at this
her
point.
yeah. So, and she's got a twin sister, and yeah.
Twin brother.
Yeah, they are
Yes,
triplets.
they are
Holy
triplets.
crap.
Yes.
It's like those things, Well, I used to go to car shows with their stepdad,
Yeah.
Jimmy, and man,
Bless him.
man, right?
Yeah,
Love that guy. So, just interesting. And that happens. That's going to happen to me more and
Yeah.
more. It's going to get worse.
It's bad.
5 years from now, I'm going to see some kid that I had my first
Yep.
year of teaching, and they're going to be like, Mr. Schick. And I'm like,
Yeah. Oh, don't do this to me.
hey, guy. Hey, what's
Yeah.
going on, lady?
So along that same lines, before I even went to the academy as a cop, I remember getting this call to a certain address, and it's an address that I had definitely been to with my field training officer.
Okay.
And I remember him calling me on the phone after I got that call. And he said, and I quote, not necessarily word for word, but I quote, "Don't waste your time. This kid is going to take up all your night. Leave him go. Tell him to shut up, sit down, and listen to his mom." And I don't know why, but I took that kind of as a slap in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And that night I sat and I talked to this young man's mom, and she was nearly in tears because he was a big kid, stocky, not fat, but
Sure.
just stocky, strong, muscular. He could have easily overtaken his mom at any time, but he had at that point in time some bit of respect and love for his mom that he didn't do that. But she's out there and she's like, I just don't know what to do with him. Like, he's going to end up in jail, this and that. And she's kind of yelling at me. And I was like, listen, calm down. I just need you to tell me why he's acting up, why he's doing this. And she goes, well, his dad is supposed to come and get him this weekend, but yet again, he didn't. And I said, he sounds just like me. I used to give my mom the hardest time when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, because my dad would promise, hey, I'm going to come get you this weekend. And then I would sit up until my mom finally was like, go to bed. He's not coming. And I would be mad at her because I felt like she was keeping me from him. So I resented her for it. So I went, and then later on in life, I found out that my dad's just that way. He's not going to do what he says he's going to do. And even when I did try to have a relationship with him later on in life, he still let me down.
Sure.
So I just told this kid, I was like, listen, I understand. I've been in your shoes. You feel like your mom is keeping you from your dad, but it's not your mom, it's your dad. Your dad is the one who's not coming and picking you up. Your dad is the one who may or may not want to have a relationship with you. So if you could just kind of tone it down a notch, and instead of taking your frustrations out on your mom, take them out on him when you see him again or when you talk to him again. And that kid ended up being like, that day he told me, he was like, later on that day, a light bulb went off in my head. He said, because I always thought that I was the only one who didn't have a relationship with their dad. He said, and then when you and I talked, and I sat out there at this young man's house for probably 4 hours. My FTO was super annoyed with me. But that kid ended up being a productive member of society. He may not have had the perfect life or what everyone considers to be that perfect life.
Sure.
But he had a wife, he had 2 kids, and he was trying to support them doing his job. And he wasn't one of those guys who job hopped or, went from making a $20 an hour job down to a $10 an hour job so that he would get welfare. He never was on welfare, maybe food stamps at some point, but I don't even know. and then he died. And I remember seeing on Facebook his obituary. And you want to talk about tearing you up. Like, that was my first success case, I considered.
Sure.
And then here he is doing well, having his wife, having his kids, having his cake and eating it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then in an instant, gone.
Wow. And those things don't leave you,
No,
you know?
no.
I still think about.
I just seen his sister, and I sat and talked to her for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours about her brother. So, like, I still keep up with the family. I still try to know what they're all up to and things like that. But
Interestingly enough, you've touched on a couple things, and I'll be honest, Steve, I didn't have these in my notes I wanted to talk to you about, but we're going to. And you just tell me if you want to, where you want to go with it. But
I'll go wherever you want, man.
you're talking about just building relationships and the importance of family, and getting on social media. And recently, you posted a couple things on social media about a brother
Yeah.
that you were aware of,
Yeah.
but haven't been publicly, speaking about or making other people aware of. And
No,
so you made a post that you maybe had located
I
him
did.
and his mother,
Yep.
and reached out to him. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah. So I'll never forget the day. So I'll take it back. So after my mom and my dad got a divorce, my dad quickly remarried within like a year after the divorce was final, or maybe even just a couple of months.
How old were you?
Yeah, man, when they got a divorce too.
Okay.
So my brother was just born when they, like, a couple months old when they split up, or maybe at 10 months, my mom finally said. But he had went and was with this other lady named Tracy,
Okay.
who's also passed away, that I just recently found out. But she was very abusive, like physically abusive to me, not my brother because he was younger, but to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived there with them for like maybe 12 months, 10 months, something like that. And then they got a divorce, and my dad married this other woman that they were married for, I don't know, probably 4, 5, maybe 6 years. But that period of time, in the time that they were married, that's when my dad used to come over constantly.
Okay.
It was regular. And I even told this lady when I did contact her, I was like, I always felt like you were the only reason I actually had a connection with my dad. And the only thing that she said in regards to that was, I can't believe he abandoned 4 kids the way he did. And I was like, wait a second, 4. And then, your memory starts clicking in. She had a daughter before she had my brother. And apparently my dad treated her as if she was his own.
Okay.
So, but anyway.
Because you have a brother you've had a relationship with, and
yeah, so
I've met him.
my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the brother, me and my brother are 2 years apart. Close as close can be for brothers, obviously. Mainly because, we've been through everything. Like, I can remember flipping him with a towel. You remember
Oh, yes.
yeah, flipped him with a towel right in the eye. Thought that I had completely, like, I thought because he never would take his hand off his eye, so I thought his eye was going to fall out in his hand, but it didn't, obviously.
Thank
so
God.
But we had all the same friends. We did all the same things together. You're riding your bike through the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You got this bike gang going on, and even though you're only allowed to ride it, 5 houses deep.
That's right.
And that's it.
Don't cross that street.
Don't cross the street, and don't go past your aunt's house, and don't go past your friend's house.
Yep, I get it.
So, but anyway, when I was 13, my brother was 11. So we're sitting out at my grandmother's house in Marion, right on Washington Street, and in pulls this yellow Nova, all, primer, spots all over it. Immediately recognized that's my dad's car. and I hadn't seen him in a while. So I run down to him, and I'm excited to see him because, he wasn't coming around at that time, and I had pretty much just kind of written him off. And he goes, "Hey, I want to show you what I got." And I was like, "All right, what is it?" Pulls out of the back seat. There's my brother. And he goes, "Meet your brother." And I was like, "What? I have another brother? That's crap. I don't want another brother. I want a sister, for crying out loud." But anyway, I could also remember being, kind of like, hey, our family just got bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of cool. That was the only time I had ever seen him.
That was it.
That was it.
So
He never came and picked us up another time after that.
you're 13.
Yeah.
Last time you see your dad?
Last time I see my dad or my brother.
So first time you see your brother, last time you see your brother
until last weekend.
Wow. So
34 years, by the way. And the day that, and I didn't realize this, but the day that he pulled into that alleyway and introduced me to him, that was the day he was bringing him home from the hospital. Now,
so he's 13 years younger than you.
yeah, he's 13 years younger than me.
Okay.
So he's
10-4.
34.
Gotcha.
I'm 47. Okay. He's 34 now.
Okay.
But the really crazy thing about it is he lived 4 blocks from me.
That entire time.
The entire time.
13.
Yeah. I knew
moving
exactly
forward.
where he lived, my dad, but he just never came. And then they divorced, and
Him and your brother, like new brothers.
yeah, what who
that Tracy?
huh?
Is that Tracy?
No, that her name is Rita.
Okay. Sorry.
And so she is the only woman that my dad has ever been with that I called mom.
Okay.
The only one. And then they divorced. And she used to make him do all kinds of fun stuff with us. We'd go to the beach, we'd go canoeing at Lake Barbie. Like, we went everywhere. We did all kinds of stuff when he would come and pick us up. So, like I said earlier, I always assumed that was her doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like I say, after 13, after the day he introduced me to my brother, I never seen him again until I was 18.
Okay.
And graduating from high school, and he never got out of the car. Stayed parked outside. Somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, your dad's out front." I'm an 18-year-old kid getting ready to leave for boot camp in 1 week.
Right.
So I run out there. "Hey, what's going on? Long time no see," and he hands me a graduation card with like $25 in it. And I took it, talked to him for about 5 minutes, and then he left. So then I don't see him again for another 4 years. When I get out of the Marine Corps, my brother is like, "Hey, ran into our dad at the bar. He's real sorry for all the times that he missed out with us and wants to have a relationship." And I was like, "Look, dude, I've been down this road before and I don't want to go down it again."
Right.
But he was like, "Nah, man, it's different this time." So I was like, "All right, let's do it." So when I do it, I'm in full. So we tried. Like, I would go over to his house. We would invite him to birthday parties. He came to one birthday party for the kids. Told me, like, I invited him to my wedding, never showed up. Invited him to my police graduation, never showed up. Like, he just kept not showing up. So I was like, "Look, I'm done. I'm not messing with it anymore." But in that time, I had asked him about my brother. I was like, "Hey, where can I find him?" He goes, "I don't know. His mom doesn't want anything to do with you." And I was like, "Well, that's fine, but one day I'm going to find him. So either you can help me or you can not help me. Either way, I'm going to find him." And he was like, "Yeah, you're on your own. I got nothing for you. I don't know anything about him." I was like, "What's his birthday?" "I don't know." So I was like, "All right, I'll find out from somebody else." So I asked my mom. She was like, "I got it wrote down somewhere, but I'll have to look for it." Well, that never happened. So I asked aunts, uncles from my dad's side, "Hey, do you remember this kid?" "No, I don't remember him." "No, I don't remember him." "Yeah, I remember him, but they don't want anything to do with you. They don't want you to contact him." So I was like, "All right, but I'm still going to do it."
Right.
And I mean, every time you know, technology is great, so you can find just about anybody.
I was a skip tracer and collector for 10 years, brother.
Exactly. So
You
know,
can run, but you can't hide.
yeah, you can find anybody that you want. So,
And that was before we had social media.
I know, right?
I can't imagine how easy my job would have been now.
So 2009, I'm starting to look. Matthew Hurd, everywhere. Matthew Hurd. Nothing. So my mom's like, maybe he's adopted. Maybe he doesn't have the same last name. And I was like, well, that's really going to make it hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I started asked my dad, hey, what was Rita's maiden name? I don't know. I was like, you were married to her for 4 or 5 years and you don't remember her maiden name? Like, I know my mom's maiden name.
Right.
You know, I know your mom's maiden name. So how can you say you don't know her maiden name? He goes, I don't know, man. You just need to drop it. They don't want anything to do with you. And I was like, that's fine, but I want them to tell me.
Right.
Kept going. You know, I'd pick it up and I'd hammer it out for weeks, months.
Sure.
And then, you know, you come to a point where you're like, all right, maybe this guy doesn't exist.
You get some frustration.
Yeah. So, you know, you take a break. And then somebody would bring him up. Hey, have you ever found your brother yet? No, I haven't. Do you have any more information that you remember? And that's how it would all roll. So about every year, my mom would ask me, hey, where are you with finding your brother? I'm like, I'm not.
Wow.
So one day she was like, why don't you search marriage records? This was a couple weeks ago. And I was like, I can do that, can't I? And she goes, yeah. So I had planned on just going to the courthouse in Marion, because that's where they were married, and just checking marriage records. Hey, did you have a marriage license for a Mark Hurd? Can you show me all of them? That's my dad. And she was like, you can do it online. And I was like, you can? She goes, yeah, you can. Just do it online. So I start going and I find some places where it says you can, but I never was able to. And I don't know what caused me to search what I did, but all I did was search Matthew Hurd, mother Rita. And boom, here come this name. And I was like, okay, that might be her. And then it says associated with her family members. And one of them is Mark R.H. I said, that's awful close. Like, and then I clicked on it and it was like, you can have this information for $5 a month.
Oh, man.
And I said, I don't want to pay. I don't want anybody to have my credit card information.
Right.
So I went back. And when I went back, it gave a full list of information. Her name, my dad's name was up there. Her son's name was up there. Her daughter's name was up there. And her address. And I was like, no way this can be her. So I just did a little quick Google search and up popped her Facebook page. And I went to her Facebook page and I'm looking at it. And as soon as I seen her picture,
You
I was
knew
like,
that
that's
lady.
her.
Yeah.
That's her. I know that woman. So I'm looking through her posts and she's got pictures of a young man, a young daughter who looks just like she did when I remember her as a kid. I mean, exactly like her. So I'm assuming that is the girl, the daughter that
Sure.
I knew but didn't really know.
Yeah.
So I just sent her this big long text. I've been searching you. I think I started it off with something to the effect of, I don't know for sure if you are who I think you are, but if you are, you were married to my dad in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I went into the story of how I'd been searching for her for the last 30 years. And, you know, on and this and that. And then I sent it. Like I kept it in my, for a couple of hours, several hours.
Yeah.
I turned to my wife and I was like, I don't know if I should send this. What if she doesn't want to have her son know who I am? You know, what if she really did try to hide from my dad or me or whatever? And she was like, I don't know. You're just going to have to see, you know? What do you have to lose? You've been looking for him for all these years. Why not?
Right.
So I said, all right. And I hit the send button. I woke up the next morning, nothing. And I thought, all right, I'm going to give her some time. It is 6 o'clock in the morning. Noon rolls around, nothing. So I was like, you know what? Facebook doesn't always send you those messages. So, you know, do I post on her timeline?
Right.
You know, what do I do? So I'm looking on her Instagram because I'm a stalker like that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And there she is, friends with my cousin. And I just simply sent her a text message, said, hey, is this my dad's ex-wife? And she was like, yep, sure is. Why? And I said, the one that he had a child with. And she goes, yeah, your brother. And I said, do you know that I've been looking for them for 30 years? She goes, oh, I am so sorry. I just assumed you didn't want to know him.
Oh, interesting.
And I said, no, I've been searching, and every time I ask any of the family, they don't know who she is. And she was like, oh no. I said, is she as nice as I remember? And she goes, she is just the sweetest. And I said, awesome. I sent her a message, but she hasn't replied to it yet. And I'm thinking it's because she doesn't know, because Facebook hides that. And she goes, do you want me to send her a message? I'm friends with her. And I said, yes, if you wouldn't mind. So she did. And she immediately texted her back. Yes, I did see it. And then she gave me some kind of a compliment and then said, I have a family over, because it's 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
She said, I have family or guests over. Once they're all gone, I plan on sitting down and replying to him. So I was like, sweet, that's all I needed to know.
Yep. Yeah, just
All I needed to know.
confirmation.
And I had I was confident. Like, I was standing on top of the world with this one. And she finally sent me a message that I got the next day, the 3rd. And all it said was, you know, I can't believe that your dad abandoned 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, look, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to have my brother have a relationship with his dad. I said, I don't even have one with him. I just want him to know that I'm out here, and if he ever wants to meet, I'm 100% for it. And she was like, I will let him read all of your messages and then let him make the decision. I said, that's all I want. That's all I care for. So that was the last message. And, you know, a week and a half went by. And I was like, I guess he doesn't want one. Or maybe it was just a week. It was just a week. I was like, maybe he just doesn't want a relationship. You know, so I started getting a little down, a little depressed. And then exactly a week later, Sunday evening at 8 p.m., a message comes in. Of course, I don't get it because Facebook doesn't show you those message notifications because we're not friends.
Oh, I see.
But
I was wondering what you meant by that.
yeah,
Okay.
because
Gotcha.
we're not friends.
Yeah.
Because I didn't request them.
Yeah, it's like in that.
Yeah, it's
you
in
got to
that.
click
Yeah.
that chat button or something.
Yeah.
Follow you. Okay.
So every day I was checking it. And Monday morning I checked it and there was a little red one.
Yep.
So I went over and thought this definitely isn't going to be it. But Sunday night while I was taking a shower, I had planned out another message I was going to send to her. Look, hey, I understand he may not want a relationship or he doesn't want to meet, but can I at least get his kids' names, date of births, so that I can send them birthday cards, you know, things like that, Christmas gifts, stuff like that. And I was planning on sending it out Monday, and there was this message, and he sent it to me, and it was the shortest response, but man, I was again back on top of the world,
Yeah.
climbing the mountain, and all it said was, "Hey, Steve, I'm glad you reached out. Mom let me read all of your messages, but she didn't tell me which Steve you were on Facebook. So I've been searching for you all week long,
Oh my gosh.
and I would love to get to know you. I've always wanted to get to know you." And I was like, "Sweet." So we messaged back and forth a couple times, and then I was like, "Look, dude, Facebook is not my thing. Here's my phone number." Immediately got a text from him. "Yeah, here's mine."
Nice.
And so we were texting, and he kind of reminds me of my son when it comes to text. You know, you ask him 45 different things, and he was like, "Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, sure
No.
thing, Dad.
NP.
Yeah,
No problem.
Yeah, no problem. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely to what? Like, I asked you 10 questions,
Thanks.
gave a couple comments, and then had a summary to follow up. Oh, that was interesting. And he just sends me this really short message. So I was like, "Hey, look, man, like, I'd love to get to meet you. You don't have to bring your family or anything like that, but you pick the restaurant. I'm going to be up in your area because I have a lake house that's 30 minutes from you. And we'll come and we'll just have lunch or something like that." He was like, "Yeah, sounds great." And then I never heard from him for like 4 or 5 days. And then he was like, "Hey, wings, etc. all right?" And I was like, "Yep, sounds good, man. I love me some wings, etc." And we met at Wings Etc. in Warsaw and had a 2-hour lunch where we talked about everything. Like, I talked about his life, talked about his kids, his wife, how they met, and then that was it, man. We parted, but the way I knew, you always have when you meet somebody, you just know that it's going to be instant, right? And one of my favorite movies is Tommy Boy with Chris Farley, David Spade, and all those guys. And in that movie, he meets a half brother, but it's just a step brother or something like that. And the guy, I don't even remember the actor, but I can see him, and he was like, "Hey." And he goes, and I think he was going to shake hands or something like that. And he goes, "Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug." And he, hugs him. And as soon as I get out of my Jeep, I go in awkwardly, maybe to shake a hand. He goes, "Brothers don't shake hands, man. Brothers got a hug." And then we sit there and hug. And I was like, "All right, we're good now." So we went in, had some lunch, and probably going to do it again, hopefully here soon, because my brother hasn't got to meet him yet. So
Gotcha. So how'd you feel afterwards?
Relieved.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
That was the word that was in my head. I didn't want to say it. I wanted to know. It's interesting because I was going to ask, "Did you feel relieved?" And then I was like, "No, don't ask that."
Yeah, no, you got to ask. You can't ask.
I know. I can't.
Closed-ended questions. You got to ask open-ended.
That's right.
But yeah, I felt definitely relieved, because now I don't have to worry about finding this guy. I've found him. I know where he's at.
Sure.
I know what he does for a living. I just don't know his address.
Oh, you'll find that.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely find it. I'll follow him home. No, but
I'm not a stalker or anything. I just wanted your mailing address.
Yeah. I just want to meet. I just want to meet his family. Because I love my nephews, my nieces. Even though I don't get to see some of them as much as I would like to. I love them all.
Yeah.
And I love watching them grow up. And so, I mean, his are really young. So
that's awesome. I've watched my great nieces and nephews grow up from afar. I've got a nephew who lives in Germany.
Yeah.
And his 2 boys. Get to watch them grow up, via Facebook. And then I have a great niece and nephew down in Texas, who I've got to watch, grow up that way as well.
Yeah.
And then I have a niece and nephew here in town that I haven't got to see a whole lot of. And Jennifer asked me, like, when are we gonna see him? We gonna go to a ball game? Hey, watching them on Facebook and just kind of that way. And never had a real close relationship with their mother and my niece, and for various reasons. I
Yeah.
mean, nothing crazy like this,
Yeah.
like didn't know they existed,
Right.
or knew they existed, but I was 13, met them once, and it was this little nugget in a
Yeah,
a
right.
car seat or whatever it was back then, and
Yeah.
probably just throw them in the back
Just
deck
throw
of
him
a
in the
car.
back seat. Yeah.
Get in there. There's room. It'll keep him warm up there, Sally.
Right.
Well, that's awesome. So, was he excited? Does he feel feelings mutual? Where?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was just as excited to meet me as I was to meet him. He told me, he was like, yeah, when I was about 20, I went to my mom to see about getting in contact with you and your brother. And I was like, why didn't you? And he said, well, I went to my mom and said, hey, I'm thinking about getting in contact with Steve and Brian. What do you think? And she was like, yeah, I'll get a hold of the family, if you want, and we'll set it up. And he was like, yeah, I think that's what I want to do. She goes, but let me just warn you, that side of the family is pretty weird. And I'm assuming that he asked, how so are they weird? And so I just stopped him there, and I was like, you don't need to say any more, man. Just know I'm not that side of the family.
Oh, wow.
And so last year I had an uncle that threatened to kill me on that side of the family. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's some definite weird chemistry
Sure.
in that side of my family. All great people in their own rights, but there's definitely some weirdos. So I was like, you
Just saying
don't
it
need to
how it
say
is,
anymore.
right?
Yeah.
Just weirdos. It's interesting. I was just talking to my brother the other day, not about your specific situation, but we were talking about how my relationship and my memories of like my grandpa Toby. So my mom was a Toby, and then my dad was a Schick. We think there's a story there, and
It's funny that you say that.
I have my ex sister-in-law has found a birth certificate that verifies the information we were told later, like as my dad was in his last few years, and he shared more with her and my brother Joe than he did with me.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I didn't, because I was so much younger than my siblings, 8 years younger than Joe, and 10 and 12 than Bill and Kathy, that I didn't really grow up experiencing family like they did.
Right.
They spent a lot more time with my grandma Fox and the Clevenger side of the family than I ever did, and they knew them better. And then they obviously knew my grandma and grandpa Toby much better than I did. My grandpa Toby passed when I was like 7, and I never knew my grandma Toby. So the things that I know there's a gnat flying around in here, man. It's been buzzing my face.
It just
and
came over
now
here.
It's found Steve. But
I thought maybe you were over there
it's
going
coming off the
crazy, but
plants over there in one of the other rooms. But so, in fact, it was just this morning. Bill and I were talking about how they experienced that different than I did.
Yeah.
We didn't go
right.
to everybody's house. Christmases were different, and Thanksgivings were different for me than it was for them. Just going, I don't know about y'all, but I can remember my Aunt Charlene would just show up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know how family would just show up.
Yeah.
You didn't call. You didn't send a text. You didn't see if it was okay.
We didn't have that.
Family just showed up, and I miss that. I miss something about that because it's like Thursday night and it's 6:50, and somebody could just show up at your door
Right.
You know, hey, we were in the neighborhood just out on a drive. People
So
don't
did you? I hate to interrupt you, but did you have like the special snacks just in case?
like the Sanka and the guest cake. I love
Yeah,
that
the
comedian.
guest
I can't
cake.
think of his name right now. He is so funny. But yeah, I mean, sort of.
Yeah.
There was things that were around. Now, if it was my Aunt Charlene, it was whatever she found in the cabinet. You
Yeah.
know, and I think I've talked about my Aunt Charlene on previous podcasts, but it was like that for anyone. Come on in, man. Oh my God, we got company. Everybody, you know, it was real.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh God,
Nobody comes
man.
over anymore.
Yeah, and I think some of it is, you know, just I wonder if it's we are overstimulated with entertainment options. Whereas, you know, you and I, we were, you're close enough to me. You were the channel changer. You were the remote
Oh,
control.
I definitely was.
You know,
on the black and white TV.
right? We had 5 channels, and
Yes.
3 of them were static.
Yeah.
You know?
6, 8, 13.
And PBS 49.
PBS 49, something like that.
Yeah, whatever the monthly station was for us. I'm sure there was a
Well,
Marion.
there's a Marion one. Yeah.
So I mean, we had 5 stations. Like I said, ours usually were static,
Yeah.
and there was usually a line through our TV too. Because, you know, a tube was going out or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, my dad was a TV repairman. He could fix anything.
Yeah. My dad was not.
No.
My stepdad was not a
Oh my
repairman.
God, my dad. My dad was. I mean, he was pretty creative. He just never did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting just thinking about you've got this gap.
Yeah.
You know, so 13 to 46, or you 46?
47.
So 34 years.
4
of
years.
gap in there. And I mean,
Yeah.
he's lived a lifetime without you.
Yeah, he has.
You've lived a lifetime
Yeah.
without him. And I was just talking to a student at the high school who, well, it's Chris. So Chris was on my podcast a while back, and I was asking him a question. He's 14, and I said to him, you know, what are you thinking you want to do, you know, 10 years from now? And in that question, I also prefaced it with, you know, realize that is an entire lifetime of his memories for him to think, what am I going to do at 24?
Yeah.
I don't, for me, I don't have a whole lot of memories until about 8 or 9.
Yeah.
They start kind of trickling in. I don't, and it's not like I went through trauma. I'm not a trauma kid. It's not it. You know, I watched my parents fight one time. They stepped on a truck I had for Christmas. I mean, so it's not as if that's what I just
Right.
I don't remember a lot of high school stuff. And it wasn't like I was a party kid. You know, those memories don't stick with me
No,
for whatever
because
reason.
they're insignificant in the grand scheme of your life.
Maybe there's
So
times
for me, that's what it is. Like I remember, you know, if somebody comes up to me that I went to high school with, it may trigger some memories that I had of them, but if they haven't been in my life since then,
Mhm.
then I just don't remember them. And I chalk it up to literally, you know, although we were really, you know, a significant part of each other's life back then. I only had one guy when I went into the Marine Corps that ever asked about me or tried to get in contact with me when I came home. And I used to come home regularly.
Mhm.
And I had one guy.
That's interesting.
And that guy, I have great memories about. We were friends in high school. We hung out every day. We worked at the same job for several years. We just took different paths. I went into the Marine Corps and did my 4 years there. And he went and got in some trouble and, you know, held down some decent jobs. Now he's doing a lot better, but he actually served some prison time. But he is literally the only guy that when I came home, my brother was like, hey, man, Mike was asking about you. You might want to try getting a hold of him. And I was like, do you have his number? And I would call him. Hey, man, what's going on? So Mike is definitely a significant part of my life, even though the last time I seen him was probably 8 years ago.
Interesting.
But he still gets a hold of me on text messages for holidays and, you know, this and that. As a matter of fact, on Veterans Day or even Memorial Day, he always sends me a text. Hey, man, just want you to know I still love you. and that's it, or something to that effect.
Sure.
So, but all of the other people that never tried to contact me or never, had that relationship post high school, I don't remember much from you. And that's why I say, excuse me, when I go out, like I'll see somebody and be like, I think I know that person. My wife will go, yeah, you guys were just friends in high school. And I'll go, what's their name? And she'll tell me, and I'll go, I just don't remember them.
Okay, so that makes me ask, do you have? So I'll preface this with, I was my class president as a senior in high school. So with that is a life sentence of putting together your class reunions, which I proclaimed in my last class reunion. I'm done. Somebody else can now. I'm going to, as a president of the class.
I'm delegating.
I'm pardoning me from that life sentence, and somebody else got to pick it up, and they're like, oh, whatever, Schick, I'm not going to plan our next class reunion, folks.
So
my question, so for me, and I went to a much smaller school.
That's what I was going to ask you. So what was your class size?
We were 175, 170,
mine was
180.
435, 455.
Right.
Like that.
So I get it. There's a big gap there in just sheer numbers, but at the same time, when I see a classmate, I remember them for, either, for whatever reason. I know they were part of my class. You ask me about somebody who was in the class behind me, the class after, I don't really know.
Right.
Some of the classes ahead of me, I know who those people are.
Right.
But I can track them pretty easily, and when I see them, I know them.
Yeah.
Not the classes after me. Very few of them. Like the guys that were younger than me, didn't really know them. The girls that were younger than me, didn't really know them.
Yeah.
There were a few here and there, of each gender, but just wasn't something I was that tuned into me.
Yeah.
So I get, that whole four. How many did you say? How many in your class?
435 or 450s.
So do you guys have class reunions?
We do. I haven't been to one.
That's what I was getting ready to ask next. So I've been to every one of ours, obviously, and we do them every 5 years.
Yeah.
Most people don't do them every 5. They're like 10,
think
20.
ours are.
We'll just never do it again. But so every 5 years we've had a reunion, and I've heard from some that they appreciate that, and they're thankful that we have them every 5 because it keeps us engaged. It keeps us, kind of, beholden to one another in some way.
Sure.
But I always wondered what it was like for the folks who don't go to their class reunion. Like my brother has never been to a class reunion.
So how many people do you have go to your class reunions?
We still have, I think we had 60 classmates show up.
60.
Maybe it may have been 45 the last one, the previous one, the 25, which is a big number. 25 is a big number. The 25 year, we had right around 65, almost 70 classmates. Plus their spouses. So we were roughly 150 people or 130 people.
So the last class reunion that I remember being invited to, I think they had 20 or 30.
Wow. That's really interesting.
So, I mean, what's the point? I mean,
do you feel
20,
like
20 kids out of 400?
It's probably the same 20 people that have been going to.
The same 20 have been to every one, and they're all people that I know, and most of them I'm related to.
Okay.
So
is Marion like a big family wreath? I'm just curious. Just asking the question, Steve. I mean, you put it out there.
It's funny. I can look, man.
It's hard to ask an open-ended question about that, a family wreath.
Yeah.
There's really no openings there.
So look, I'm kind of debating on whether to go down that rabbit hole.
You're not ready to answer that question
or not, because I mean, how many listeners do you have?
Oh man, thousands,
Yeah.
tens of thousands. Joe Rogan called the other day. He's
Yeah,
like,
I'm
oh
sure.
my God, how many listeners do you have now? I thought I was on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were in the teens, I'd
Hundreds.
probably
I have
I'd
hundreds.
probably go down
of,
that hole, but
hundreds of.
I'm sure you
100.
do. Like I would assume that you're probably encroaching on 1,000.
No.
500?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
that's probably closer.
I mean, you have spread your wings.
I have experienced a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
like a wide range of people and areas, and
you know, how many people are afraid that they don't want to move out of their hometown?
oh man, I was certainly I was
Exactly.
my wife was,
But you
I think
did
we all
it.
are. Right.
You did it, and you experienced it.
Oh man,
And it's not as bad as you think it is,
it really isn't.
but
Neither. Your hometown isn't that bad, and neither is the place that you're wanting to move to.
no, they're not. So I've moved a lot in my adult life. You know, obviously joining the Marine Corps, you get stationed in California for boot camp, and then you come home for a week, and then you go back to California. And then from there, they ship you off to your duty station, which is all the way on the other side of the country.
Right.
And then on top of all that, you know, I broke my foot. So I go from one platoon to the next platoon. And then you get healed up, and then you break your foot again. And they're like, yeah, you got to go, man. Here's this other platoon that you're going to go to. And then you go to that platoon and you meet all these people. And then the next thing you know, the barracks are really small out in Washington, D.C. So everybody's moving out in town. Well, I never wanted to do that. But then you're like, well, all of my friends that I hang out with, they all live out in town. So now it's time to move out in town. And then you move from this house to this house because you don't get along with this roommate, then this roommate, and then you're back in the barracks again for 3 months, and then you're back home. And all I ever wanted to do was leave Marion. So
Well, you did.
Yeah, and then I
You got to.
finally came over here, and this is where I've decided to put roots down. But you know, I've moved a lot. I'm
Sure.
not afraid. I'm not that guy that's afraid to move away from my hometown. I've tried to get my wife to move to California, to Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, anywhere where the weather is nicer than Indiana.
Do you always think, like, in those conversations, it's like, it's just so expensive to live there, or
That was
how-
California.
How are we going to be able to listen? There are normal people
Yeah.
living everyday, regular jobs, making X amount of dollars, just like there are here,
Oh.
that are living out there, that are everywhere else. I hesitated to move to the Hilton Head area in 2017 because of a fear of, oh my God, we can't even afford a house out here,
Yeah.
right? And now looking back, I'm like, oh my God,
We could have afforded that.
I would have doubled my money.
Doubled.
Doubled.
So it's funny that you say that. In 2010, we made a trip out to California. And literally, the condominium that my aunt owned was for sale. In 2010, $65,000.
Oh my God.
$65,000. Now, the neighborhood had changed significantly. So it wasn't as nice as what it was when she bought it for $120,000. So you get where I'm going with this,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't expensive. We came back home, or before we went out there, we paid $65,000 for the house that your aunt and uncle lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the market was crashing out there just the same as it was crashing here.
Right.
So you could buy those properties cheap then. And I was like, look, let's just do it. I can go be a cop. Cops are making 55, 60,000 a year back then.
Right.
And in 2010, and she was just like, no, we're not leaving. Just get your head straight. You're staying here.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
There's some things more important though, and I think about family, and this conversation I've had with others is, I'm very thankful that my daughters have gotten to grow up with their nieces, nephews, their grandma, their aunts and uncles, and gotten to know them and have that relationship. They're very close on my wife's side. my wife and her sisters are best friends, and it's a joy to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I strive to have that close a relationship with my brothers and my sister, and we have different lives. You know what I mean? Like it's just,
Yeah,
but they've always been that close, and
I get it.
it's heartwarming
Yeah.
to watch, and I'm thankful that my girls have got to experience that. And no disrespect towards my family. I love my brothers and my sister, and I have no regrets whatsoever. But I am thankful we didn't make a move. It would have changed some things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Even moving for the 3 years we were down in Madison, I know there was some strain felt. Jennifer wanted to be with her people.
Yeah.
Her.
It's hard.
It-
It's hard, especially when I don't know how old your wife is, but I do know how old you are, and you're just slightly older.
She's older than me.
Oh, so you didn't have to say that.
Yep.
Now you're gonna make me feel
Well,
bad.
I like older women.
But
She's 10 days older than me.
oh, okay. But you guys have created 40 plus years worth of relationships here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's hard. The longer you go,
yeah.
it's hard. It gets harder to leave. Like right now, I haven't always had a good relationship with my mom. Like as I told you earlier when I was talking about my dad, I blamed my mom for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom was very strict. And when I say very strict, I still had a curfew even at 22 when I was coming home for the weekends. And if I wasn't in the house by that curfew, the door was getting locked and I didn't have a key. I was the typical Gen X kid. I'm sure you maybe have went through it as well. I broke my wrist. And I remember walking in the door and my mom was like, "Get out of my house with those snowy clothes on."
That's right.
And I was like, "I think I broke my arm." She goes, "I don't care." Out.
That sounds exactly
Yeah.
like what that's
That
pretty
is-
close.
Right. So
I broke my hands. I've gotten one real fist fight. I've had
Yeah.
some scuffles here or there, but one real fist fight in my life. And came home. My mom knew that my brother and I went out pursuing this thing. And when we got back home, I had two broken hands, and so I knew it.
See the other guy.
I'd broke my hands plenty of times before, various reasons. And so I come home. I'm 16 or 17, 16, I believe, maybe 17. Had to be 16. Anyway, I get home and I'm like, "Hey, Mom," and it's like 2 a.m. It's like 1, 2 a.m. Nothing good happens after 11. You were a police officer long enough to know that after 11 o'clock, there's nothing good going to happen.
All bad.
And so we went out to get a pop. So I'm air quoting again, listeners.
Now, you grew up in the same house, right? With your dad, the one they lived in?
Down on South Cherry Street.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah,
No.
South Cherry is
I got
where
you
I
then.
grew up. So we lived on Chestnut Street when I was really young. Then my freshman year, that summer, we moved to South Cherry, down by the old, down near Amvets, that area.
I got you.
Right. So that's where I grew up. So I get home, go in, and I'm like, "Hey, I need to go to the hospital." And she's like, and she's in bed, and I remember her taking the sheets and pulling them over her head. And she said, "You have to wait till your dad gets home."
Yeah.
He worked third shift, and
Yeah.
and I don't remember what day it was specifically, but sometimes he would stop at the Red Dog over in Muncie and have a drink or two, or just hang out with the boys, and
Oh, it's
not a
gonna be
drink
a
because he
couple
wasn't
hours.
drinking at the time, but he would hang out with the boys and then bring home some ribs or something.
Oh, yeah.
QLs, and like it was going to be a few hours. It might have been like 8-9 hours before he got home, and I said, "Mom, I can't wait till Dad gets home. My hands are broken." She goes, "I don't care." One of those.
Maybe you shouldn't have been fighting,
Right.
then.
So finally, I turned the light on. I showed him to her, and she goes, "Well, I'm going to have to take a bath before we." So she said, "Go get in the truck and wait on me." So I went and got in the truck and sat and waited, and out she came about a half hour later. And then we're waiting on Dr.
man.
Sewlett to show up. Dr. Sewlett was my doctor,
God.
and he shows up, and holy moly, man! It was probably 5 a.m.
Oh, my
before I
God.
got home.
Our stories are similar.
Oh my God.
Eerily.
Yeah. So my brother Bill was living at our house with us at the time. I think he was going through his divorce, and I go upstairs. Well, in fact, I know he was, but I go upstairs, and as I walk by, he's like, "Was it worth it?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah." And, I got lightning and thunder, going on with my cast. About 3 hours later, when I woke up, and he's still asleep, so it's like 8:30. My dad was getting home, and I knew.
Oh, yeah.
I knew it was gonna be on. We didn't have cell phones, so it wasn't like my mom could call and tell him what was going on.
So he gets bombarded with it.
Oh yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
I knew I needed to be awake. If not, I was gonna get a rude awakening.
Oh, yeah.
So I get up, and as I'm walking by my brother, I tap him on the forehead with my cast, and I'm like, "I lied. This sucks." But yeah,
Our stories are eerily
buddy.
similar with that.
it's awful.
My mom, once I did get all of my snowy clothes off, I went in straight into the kitchen because she's fixed it. This was January 1st.
Nice.
So it's
Yeah.
New Year's Day.
Cabbage and the whole nine.
Yeah. She's making
Man,
the.
that house smelled.
Oh, it did. And that's why we always stayed outside.
That's right.
I hated cabbage. I still do. Don't eat cabbage.
No,
No.
I've learned to like it.
No, not me. But anyway, I went in and I told her, I was like, "Mom, look, my wrist, my hand
the
is just
Z
dangling there, and I've got this knot that's like raised up about an inch off my wrist." And I was like, I know I broke it. I know I broke it. She goes, "I don't care. I'm fixing supper. Go sit down. We're not going anywhere until
Oh my
supper is
God.
made." And we're talking noon, man.
Yeah.
So I'm in sitting on the couch, and I've got my wrist up here because it feels better up in the air. And my stepdad gets up, walks over, and goes, "What'd you do, you big?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Brian and Mike tackled me, and my wrist, it slacked the ground, and it broke it." And he goes, "You big."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Whatever." And I'm just sitting there like I can't do nothing with it. He's like, "Let me see it." And I show it to him, and he's looking at it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, you definitely did something to it."
It's all Z'd out.
So my mom, no, it's not really that.
Oh,
I don't even
God.
know what I broke, but it definitely had to be set.
Oh,
So my mom fixes supper, and then she's like, here's your plate, eat." And I was like, "Mom, I'm not hungry. I feel like I just want to throw up." And she was like, "You're eating." And I said, "Okay." So, I didn't get this big by not eating,
that's right.
so I
feel
ate.
that.
And then I was like, can you at least take me to the hospital after we eat?" And she was like, "We'll see." So she takes her time eating. The rest of us boys, my stepdad, my brother, and me, like we scarf it down, and she's sitting over there, dainty little bites, reading her Reader's Digest. And she goes, "Okay, get dressed. Put your coat on."
We're ready.
I put my coat on, and I'm thinking, all right, finally I'm going to get some relief. Nope. Went to the next door neighbor's house, who was a CNA at the VA. "Hey, Bob, would you mind looking at Steve's wrist?" He goes, "Yeah, I heard something happened to it earlier today." And she goes, "Yeah, by this time it's dark."
Oh my God.
So we're definitely talking at least 6 hours. So she goes over there, and I'm holding up my wrist, and I'm still not, making a fist or anything like that. And he looks at it, and he goes, "Oh my God, Sharon, you need to take this boy to the ER. That is broken." And she goes, "Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing." "All right, thank you." She goes, "Go get in the car." So I go get in the car. She stays talking to him for another 30 minutes.
Right. That's right.
She finally comes over, jumps in the car, and I'm like, "All right, finally we're going to the ER." No, we went to my grandmother's house. "Hey, Mom, Steve hurt his arm. Will you take a look at it?" "Yeah, let me see it, Sherry." So she looks at it, and she, like, you could just see all the blood run out of her face. "Oh my God, Sherry, you need to get him to the ER. Go get in the car." So I go get in the car, and I kid you not, when my mom and my grandmother talked, it was hours. So
I can't imagine.
it is dark outside. We finally got to the ER at midnight. Mind you, this happened at like 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe earlier. And we're just getting to the ER. The doctor x-rays it. He doesn't come in and see me. I remember looking at the clock because I was going to remind my mother of this every day for the rest of her life. And I have, mind you. But it was 1:30 when the doctor came in, set my wrist, and then put a cast on it.
Oh my God.
1:30. And it happened around noon. And I remind her about it every chance I get.
Interestingly enough, my wife broke her wrist
Yeah.
a few years ago. Probably more. It's more than a few years ago. Probably 10 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but so she didn't go to the hospital immediately either, though. And she's a nurse.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, "Oh no, I think it's okay." You know, one of those.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay," you know.
Uh-huh.
But I won't tell the whole story. I'll let her tell that story. But you know, you're not supposed to guard people when you're playing horse. Still to this day, I get blamed because I'm the one that knocked her down and she broke her
Yeah.
wrist. Why are you guarding me on a layup
I
playing
know, right?
horse?
Right?
You know what?
You just don't.
Right. I mean, what part of your competitive nature says horse? Yeah, I've got to guard him.
That's the
He's
Gen X
200.
center.
Yeah, I was probably 300 pounds at the time. I just laid her out. I mean, she got in
Yeah.
front. What are you doing? So I refuse to take the blame on the broken
Yeah.
wrist. But yeah, the same thing though. It was like she went to work.
Yeah.
So this happened. I think we might have went on vacation, and she went back to work like a week later, and she's like, "I got to go get this thing checked
Yeah.
out." Or you know, not a week later, but a couple days later.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to my daughter.
So
She
my
went-
wife's an RN. Same thing.
yeah, I mean, but broken bones are weird.
Yeah.
You
Just
know,
never know.
if you've broken enough bones,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah.
you know that that's a broken bone.
I-
You know,
I've broken my foot probably no less than 5 times.
5 times.
Same bone every time.
What are you doing to break your foot 5 times?
Interestingly enough, walking. So I don't know what happened. It's an old Marine Corps injury, and I don't know that it healed right. So it's always been really brittle. But if I step wrong, or if I'm on it too long, walking on concrete or things like that, it'll start off as a stress fracture, and then eventually it just gets worse and worse and worse because I don't stay off of it. I just keep going, you know.
Sure. Yeah, you're not going to slow us down.
No.
This is what it is. It's interesting to me that we started out with a dare conversation that goes to your long lost brother.
I
To
know,
you know,
right?
now our mothers are like
Typical Gen X mothers.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be all right. You know, here's some mud.
The crazy thing is I always thought it was just me. Like I thought my mom hated me.
Oh,
And it took a civilian lady in the Marine Corps to quite literally slap me in the head twice when I called my mom the B word.
oh no, yeah, that
And she, I don't know what it was, but we sat and had a talk for a couple of hours one day. And I was like, I got work to do. And she goes, nope, this is more important.
yeah.
And she started talking to me and basically just asking me questions. And, you know, it was weird because I was like, well, yeah, she does love me, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And then I literally went home that next weekend or the next time I went home, and I walked up to my mom for the first time in probably 15 years. And I gave her a hug, and I was like, I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was such a jerk to you all of those years,
Yeah.
and I love you. And our relationship has never been
That's
better.
Good.
So
Good, man. You only
Yeah.
get one of them.
exactly, exactly.
And I know everybody's situation's different. You know,
Yeah.
I'm very blessed to have the mother I had. My mom was incredible, and there was never a doubt in my mind
Yeah,
that she loved me. But with that being said, I knew where my place was. I knew the order of her love
Oh,
and
yeah.
affection,
yep,
and she made it clear that my dad was someone she chose,
yep,
and she stuck by him through thick and thin. And you know, she had me. She can have another of me,
oh yeah.
I mean,
You're not the only one,
right? You
Yeah.
know, but the way she edified my father, and they didn't have the perfect marriage. It was far from it, but she edified my father in that way, and that stuck with me through all the stuff I've ever. You know, that is probably one of the biggest lessons that my mom ever taught me, and didn't even know it.
Right.
You know,
You don't know it until
man,
you've done it for so long.
right?
And then you learn. That's what I love about education is learning.
Oh, it's lifelong.
Learning
man.
things. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I've always never been afraid to try new things and learn something new. And I think that every time I have learned something new, it's helped me reflect on something that's happened to me in the
Oh,
past.
absolutely.
And, you know, it changes your whole outlook on life in general.
It's just the way we take it in.
Yeah.
You know, what we've been through shapes
Yeah.
how we are able to receive something. And, you know, even then, I truly believe that, you know, our brain's very elastic, so we can change. You know, I mean, you know, I'm a huge Rocky fan. I got my Rocky
Oh,
poster
yeah.
over here. But when he says,
I feel like that's new.
seen a lot of changes in here tonight. Changes in me's, changes in you's, changes in everybody. You know, and you see the Russian fans are chanting Rocky.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think, man, we got to continue to evaluate and make those changes that we need to make, and
Yeah.
make our life the best it can be for us in the you know, in that moment, but for the future too. And
Yeah.
man, breaking my hands on somebody's face and head, that wasn't the smartest thing. And
Never.
I was scared to death. Just, man, it's my show. I guess I can't
You can
share.
do
I don't
whatever
have
you
to
want,
ask
buddy.
Steve permission.
No, you
to
don't.
see if I can share.
You
on
can
it.
share all you want.
But, you know, so I had to go to school that next Monday.
Yeah.
And his cousin was in my weightlifting class. And I had a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
And when I got in there, you know, here I am with two broken hands. I'm a junior and he's a senior. And I thought, oh, God, you know, it's his cousins, family.
Is he going to want revenge?
Yeah. And it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, you know, what happened? And we were okay. And I was very thankful for that. So thanks, Brian. I don't know if Brian's a listener or not.
He should be.
You know, and me and the other
Everybody
fella,
should be.
you know, we became friendly later on too. So,
Yeah.
you know, that was buried and moved on. And so, hey, AJ, you know, just so you know,
Just so
and,
you know, I still like you.
that's right. We're good, man. We don't need to have a, you know, rematch. I don't need to make Rocky 2,
Oh yeah.
Shicky 2 or something. But
What is it? How did you like lightning and thunder?
Thunder and Lightning, that's right. Weird. So you've had a cast, and you know that after a few weeks,
Oh.
the smell,
Oh yeah.
it's awful.
Dude. And when you're a teenager,
It's even worse.
Even worse.
You got weird
No
stuff
offense
like
to teenagers.
Oh, they
We've all
stink.
been there, but they all smell
teenage boys' feet stink.
Oh, they're horrible.
So bad.
horrible.
You had teenage boys all over your
do.
house all the time.
My mom used to complain about mine when I was a teenager.
Awful.
Yeah.
So, you know, here we are a few weeks later, and I don't know if Tracy listens to this or not either, but so I've got stinky hands, right? And here I am, a teenage boy, and you
Yeah.
know, and so I'd put like cologne on it, thinking
Yeah.
it'll mask it. No,
No,
it makes it
it's
worse.
worse.
It's like
Yeah.
absolute, you know, it's
And then
like
I'm sure it got itchy after
Oh.
you sprayed the cologne on it.
so bad.
Oh yeah.
So I just remember sitting in, I think it was Mr. Broyle's class, and I'd said something, and I thought, you know, it'd be really funny if I can get somebody to, you know, gag or throw
Oh,
up
yeah.
today. And it's Tracy Harris sitting in front of me, and I said, "Oh man," and she was, "What?" I said, "I just put some polo on my hands today just to, you know, make them smell better." And I said, "You want to smell?" And she stuck a smell and like gagging right there in class, and I'm trying not to laugh because I don't want to get in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Because you know it's your fault.
right? Mr. Broyle's like, "Oh, is everything okay over there, guys? Everybody okay over there?" And anybody that had Mr. Broyle's knows that's pretty accurate.
Uh-huh.
But anywho, yeah, man, just crazy how conversations take turns, and I've been having a few conversations, so it doesn't surprise me one bit, but it's always interesting. So just so everybody knows, I said earlier that I had notes, and
And you asked one.
I did. I said, one of my conversations I wanted to have with you was about, you know, being a police officer in the
Yeah.
DARE program, and we quickly got away from there.
So what were the others? Because it looked like there was probably about 6 or 7 on there.
There is, but here's the thing. I'm going to hold on to them.
All right. Maybe give me some time to think about them.
No, I'm not going to talk to you
Oh,
about 'em.
okay. All right. Even better.
because I don't think you need to think about them. We can do it
Probably don't.
right now. The problem is, we're an hour and 25 in.
And you don't like to go over an hour.
Well, if look over on my
Happy
wall.
Little mistakes.
No.
Oh, parking 7 a.m. to 6.
Yeah, and we're at 7:27. So, well, I don't like going over an hour, but I have.
Yeah.
And
Oh well, our first one was
2 hours.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about what we intended to talk about.
No.
Very similar.
We did. We had like
30 seconds.
30-second clip.
And I tried to take that snippet out and just put like a teaser, but
Yeah,
that's where
no.
screwed
I
everything
still want to
up.
have that conversation with
Well,
you. Dude, I think about that stuff. Like, so my wife bought one of them little shower things.
Like
you
a
can put
shower
your
caddy?
phone in it.
Oh,
You can
okay.
put your
Yeah.
phone in it and listen to music or whatever. I watch YouTube videos on early, Old West and early settlers and
Well, I've been preparing
history
for
and
it,
stuff
watching
like
Quantum Leap. Rerun.
What was that guy's name?
Something, it was, wasn't it like Steve?
I don't even know. My
No.
mom loved that show.
I did too.
Yeah.
I did. Quantum Leap, Golden Girls, like those.
Oh,
were
the Golden Girls.
those
Dude,
were
I still watch
staples.
reruns of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Man, love it. But yeah, so we're not going to touch on it today, but
But now wait a second before we go, because I just have to ask, because I feel like there's more decorations in here.
what do you mean?
Like I don't think that cuffed
The cuff stuff was not up the last time you were in.
the Rocky
The Rocky poster was not up.
wasn't there.
And I believe all the Bob Ross stuff may have been
The
over
Bob
behind
Ross
you.
stuff was here.
Was it behind you though, or was it there? It may have
I
been
know
there.
that the chair and the
Okay.
maybe the one painting there.
So it was there then.
Yeah.
But no, I've slowly but surely been.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. Like you have a third seat now.
I do. I actually, I have enough microphones to do 4 people.
Oh,
I have
really?
A 4-person
Nice.
show now. I don't have enough mic arms yet, and I just used the wall mount that I was going to use for the 4th mic to change where my mic is, and I think it cleans up our view as well.
It does.
So I like it better where it's at. And I'm slowly but surely making some adjustments.
And I like that you look more comfortable because you actually leaned back this time. The first
Yeah,
time you were constantly
was. I
leaned
had-
forward. All while I'm sitting in here in this.
I know you just
This
chill.
chair is
That chair is cool,
comfortable.
and I rarely sit in it. So
And with the week I've had, I could
needed it?
literally just fall right here and go to sleep. Look, I'm gonna tell you, when I got your text message, I'll be honest with you, I completely forgot.
I figured so.
I have so
You're not a
much
time
stuff.
guy.
Yeah, I have so much stuff going on right now, and I'm trying to juggle it all, and it has to do with the state audit, so
Sure.
it's stressful. But when you sent me that text, I was like, crap, yeah, I'm definitely in because this is the break I need.
Needed a moment to just.
Yeah, I needed something
Yeah.
to take my mind off of it, and
I think it's so important, and that's something we can talk about again too. Is just how important it is to disconnect.
yeah,
So I'm going to show you something. One of my favorite artists is a guy named Henry Rollins. Are you familiar with Henry Rollins?
Henry Rollins.
So,
I didn't know he was an artist though.
well, I mean, a musical artist, but a writer. and
Yeah,
artist.
okay.
But what an interesting story. So I've been a fan for a long time, and one of my favorite songs of his is "Disconnect," and just the whole idea. He grew up in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
and just seeing all these people that were constantly. But man, there's some great podcasts out there with Henry Rollins on them.
Really, I'm gonna have to
Encourage you
check them out.
to check those out. But just that disconnection, I think, is so important. I constantly reminded about these two lumberjacks that go out and cut wood same time every day. They get up, they walk with each other out to the woods or wherever, and carrying the same type of axe, about the same size guys.
Yeah.
And right around 11:30 every day, one of the guys, he goes home, gets lunch and whatever, but he's gone for about an hour. And he comes back, and they do this for 6 months or so. And at the end of that 6 months, the one lumberjack looks at the other one that had gone home, and he said, "Hey, man," we'll call him Jimmy. "Hey, Jimmy, I see you, you leave every day at 11:30, come back, you're here by 12:30, you get right back in it, and that hour you're gone. I'm chopping wood, and I'm just kind of eating, while I'm working.
Yeah.
We have the same amount of wood chopped by the end of the day.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What's going on? So I go home and sharpen my axe. And we got to sharpen our axe, man. We got to stay fresh. We got to stay, something I continued to remind the teachers I worked with that I leave and I would go home because I had to get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And whatever was going on in front of me right now
Can wait.
can either wait or I'm going to be more efficient when I'm refreshed and ready to go again, rather than just dragging it out. Think about the number of times when you're at work and you're like, oh,
Yeah, I can't wait to get home.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're that much less productive.
Yep.
I'm a firm believer. Let's go sharpen our axe. Let's drop it. Let's move away from it, and then let's come back and hit it. And now with my new position, my axe is sharpened, and I disconnect.
Yeah.
So that I take some time to do this, to engage with my wife, and chat with my kids occasionally, and just sharpening my axe, man. And
That's it.
you got to take time away. And I'm saying this now because this podcast is going to air very close to the beginning of the school year. And I want to remind all my teachers out there, my teacher friends, sharpen your axe.
Absolutely.
They need you fresh. They need you ready. Some of that stuff you're doing, working late, doing whatever, man,
Look,
sharpen your axe.
I haven't always been a firm believer in family time, but over the years, I have 2 adult kids. You have 2 adult kids.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, once they're adults, you don't see them as much.
True.
Especially my daughter lives 2.5 hours south of here.
Mm-hmm.
My son is always constantly working, either his day job or helping do farming. And I miss those times that I used to just be able to go, all right, let's go. And they would have to pack into the car with me
Right.
because we're going out to eat. And I miss those times. So, and I miss all the times that I wasn't there for them when they needed me. So, now that I'm the trustee, I've told my clerk, and I tell my boss at work now, because I still do 2 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, listen, if it's going to come down to this job or family's always going to be chosen first. So if I call in and just tell you, hey, I'm taking a day off, you're going to know I'm not coming in, number one. And I don't care if you're paying me. I don't care if I don't have any sick time or I don't have any PTO. If I call you, then it's something, and you don't need to worry about it. And I tell my clerk, because she's going through stuff right now. And she was like, well, I'm going through this audit. Plus I'm trying to help people who need assistance. Matter of fact, I have an appointment that's coming at 8:45 tonight. And she asked me this weekend, she's in Florida, and she asked me, and she was like, what can I do to help? And I said, well, you can be there for your kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
All I have is my wife at home, and I can promise you tomorrow when I get off work, we're going home. We're packing up the 2 cars, packing up the dogs, and we're going up to the lake house, and I'm not going to think any more about anything that happened this week. Whether I get stuff done or not, it can wait. I don't care. The state can wait. If they don't want to wait, they can come down and do it themselves.
I like it.
So family's always more important, and connections and sharpening that axe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm all for it, man.
We started out with the relationship piece.
Yeah, that's a good spot to end.
Man, we come right back to it.
Yeah.
Man, I like it. I like it. Thanks, Steve, for coming on. And we're definitely going to do this again sooner rather than later.
I can't wait.
Because I've got questions that I need answers to. And I appreciate you being here and taking time away and waking up to come over.
Yeah. Waking up. Dude, I've been up all day. So.
Oh, man. Well, that's it, folks. That's the Schick Show. We're out.